Team win. I thought we played complimentary football. Didn't start off great. Put the defense in a bad spot in that fourth down. Didn't get it, but just really, really proud of those guys. The guys, they got the ball back the next play. Brady did a good job, and I thought we executed on a lot of levels today. So just really, really proud of the guys.
These last 2 weeks, you've had a good couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that. I just thought the team played really well the last 2 weeks. I think, our first week, we kind of, had to self-reflect and we're like, hey, what are we going to do now? I thought that we've been really, really intentional these last couple weeks in practice. And now, we just got to keep it going, right? We got a tough couple games with stretch coming up. And, we got to be more intentional than we ever have been.
Does it feel like the game's slowing down for you?
I just thought that the guys made really good plays today. Honestly, I thought the line blocked well. I can't take a sack there. Backed up. I thought the guys ran hard. The running backs, tight ends, did both. And then wideouts, they made great catches and ran really, really fast. So I just did my job and just like I said, great complimentary football.
What did it feel like Brian Williams getting going after a slow start?
Yeah, it was good to see him get going, man. That dude practices really, really hard. And he's one of my best friends, and to see him, and all his hard work get put on the field and have a day like today, and looking at it, 5 catches, 165 yards, that's what we expect him to do. He's one of the best players in college football, so see him get a game like this and momentum carrying it to the next couple games is what I'd like to see.
Do you feel like that's something he kind of had to remind people that people view him as one of the best players in college football? Or?
Yeah, I think too, right? After that first game, he got concussed, right? He had to tell himself hey, I'm a really, really good football player. It happens to everybody. So just giving him touches and seeing him work and stuff is what he needs. And so he's worked really, really hard in practice, and the guys challenge him on how to be a leader and a better wideout. And so I'm just really, really proud of how the party's come.
Ty, you hear a lot of quarterbacks that say take what the defense is willing to give you. Is that a meaning with this offense?
Yeah, absolutely. We Coach Grubb emphasizes all the time, right? We want the defense to cover every part of the field, right? Well, it's kind of hard to because this is a harder thing to do. You know what I mean? So being able to be able to get under center and run the ball and then be able to do play action and stuff, keep everybody guessing on their toes is what we like to do, and so being able to just take what the defense gives us and get out of negative plays is the biggest thing about quarterbacking, and so that's what I think I'm trying to do the best I can of.
Ty, tell us about the play coming out of the third quarter. It's a pretty neat play design. Was it blocked up perfect? Is it going to execute pretty well for Ryan down the side?
Yeah, absolutely. I told the guys in there in the huddle, right, hey, we're going to run this play. And I looked at the left side of the line. I was like, hey, Caden Proctor, Gino, Parker, let's go. It's all up on you guys, right? So, Ryan did a good job of selling it. Jerem did a good job of pitching it. And then, of course, Ryan made the play. I just threw it to him. But it really, really started up front, right, with those guys clearing it out in the alley or whatever. So, Ryan ran really, really fast, but those guys up front really, really made it go.
And then how potentially big will it be to get Jam back for Georgia?
It's going to be huge. That guy's a really, really big part of our team. He works really hard. He's a leader. He's very vocal, and I know he's itching at the bit to get back.
What do you think about Coach Grubb's usage of the screen game? Not obviously that play you just referenced, but lots of screens today.
I just think we get the ball to our really, really good players in space, and we just let them go work. I think that's an underused part of football, and I think that we have really, really good guys, and being able to get them the ball is really important.
Sorry, it seems like a lot of the conversation, I guess, moving forward is keep the pedal down, keep momentum going. I guess moving forward from ULM to this one, and then moving forward.
Yeah.
How do you? Oh, so sorry. How do you? I guess continue that through an off week and when 2 weeks ahead of it.
Yeah, I just was talking to you all and TK now. I think if anything, we have to be more intentional now in the bye week than we were the first 2 weeks. You know what I mean? We can't be, Coach Saban says all the time, have a release syndrome because we won 2 games. You know what I mean? We have to be, understand what we did wrong this week and be more intentional now so we carry into this, SEC stretch coming up.
The confidence that you've been playing with has been noted by everybody in the building, everybody that's been watching Alabama football for these last 2 weeks. How do you just continue just to grow that confidence as you go on the road and Alabama prepares to face Georgia, but the road struggles continue to be a thing? How do you guys go on the road and be confident?
Yeah, first off, I get my confidence from the Lord. I pray before every game. I pray, every morning before I go in the building, right? One, giving me this opportunity to be able to, play at the University of Alabama, but also two, giving me wisdom and strength, and just make sure, right, that I do everything, the way He wants me to do it. But also, right, I get my confidence through my teammates. We have a really, really good football team. But defense is really, really playing well, and offense is, really clicking on a bunch of different, notes. And so, I think nothing really changes, right? We just got to go understand, hey, it's on the road. We just got to go do what we do, and just, understand to be intentional about everything.
So talk us through the
yard drive that you guys had. What was your message going out of that one, and then what do you think for use in the field?
I just think, hey, we practice that all the time, like being backed up or whatever. I told the guys in the huddle, hey, let's go. This is what we want, right? 98-yard drive. This is what offenses want, right? Being able to move the ball, fluently. And it really was just guys getting open and got, run game opening up, right? Kevin Riley ran really hard. Offensive line really did a good job of, moving people off blocks and holding up in the pass game. And then, the guys like, Cuevas on the little, play pass, and then, Germ and, all the wideouts, man. They just did a really good job today. And so, the only reason that I'm up here talking to guys is because of them. Honestly, they did a really good job, and I can't give credit to those guys enough.
Can you talk us through your progression on the Jerry Bernard deep end touchdown pass? Can you talk about kind of what you saw there and what it takes to make that throw? It was a really, really good route by Jerm, but we knew they were going to play their two invert. So they have a whole player in the middle, right? And so we knew that, hey, we're going to have somebody clear him out, so Jerm can have a deep end coming in. We also had a tight end run a deep over, so he could take out the middle, right? So once I saw it was two invert and the guy cleared him out, the middle safety, then I knew it was one-on-one. With Jerm, and as long as the linebackers didn't lift, we had him. And so Jerm had a really, really good route, but the guy who made the play happen was Lightsir Brooks and Caleb Edwards, right? Because he cleared out the corner, and then Lightsir cleared out the safety. So those are really, really important routes, and people don't look at that. All you look at is Jerm, but those guys made the play go, and then Jerm made a really, really good catch and scored. So credit to those guys. You're talking about the clear outs and the people that made it happen, but it takes a pretty high level quarterback to recognize all that and get it out on time. Just talk about your preparation to get ready for a play like that and execute.
Yeah, like I said, my preparation, confidence comes from the Lord, and then comes from practice and practicing with really, really good players. So we talked about it all week. Hey, when we get this look, right, this is what they're going to play, and this is how we're going to attack it. So I knew, right, once we motioned over, hey, it's a too high shell, and then I told Lightsir, man, hey, you just got to clear it out. You know what I mean? And I knew Caleb knew his job, right, and Jeremy just ran a really good route. And that's what we practiced all week, and that's what we got to emphasize, right? This is the look. This is what we're going to execute. If they don't happen, hey, how are we going to stay out of negative plays?
All right, thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.